Don't not be Thibodeau. And here it comes. It's about to come in. Oh my God. They didn't. They took Sauce Gardner. Oh my God, they don't want an edge. Maybe he likes Jermaine Johnson at 10. Then we're not going to get a wide receiver?
Garrett Wilson, wide receiver. Oh my God, no edge.
Was sitting there
The Jets traded up. The Jets traded up. Are we taking JJ? Are we taking JJ? Because I know Braden is in New Zealand saying, we should get Lily, Mike. He's definitely saying that. JJ! We got Johnson! We got Johnson at 26! We got Johnson at 26! This is great! Yes! They took Roger McCreary, they didn't take Dean, and we traded up. We can get the Kobe Dean. We can get the Kobe Dean. It really is. They took Breece Hall. They took Breece Hall. Wow. I mean, look, I love Breece Hall. But there's also Jeremy Ruckert, who I think is the best tight end in the class personally. They took Jeremy Ruckert. He took Jeremy Ruckert. Yes. We got a Jeremy. We got a Jeremy. Oh, and the Jets pick, and it's Max Mitchell, offensive tackle. We needed that. That's wow. We took Michael Clemens. I never heard of him. A defensive edge. Hello, and who are my personal rankings for this NFL draft in 2023? The 2023 draft is almost upon us. Less than 2 weeks. I would say, 11 days? So we're getting super, super close to the draft. And as we get closer to the draft, there seems to be more and more debate, more and more disagreement with who everybody's favorite offensive tackle is. Everybody has a different OT1, OT2, OT3. Kind of a consensus on wide receiver. There's only one wide receiver I ever heard spoken about when people talk about wide receivers. But we'll talk about some other positions. I just wanted to give my opinions. Also, there's some trade rumors out there. There's some really good players available for trade. I want to give my thoughts on that as well. I also wanted to first start by thanking everybody that sent their well wishes. I have been struggling with my health for quite some time now, and I'm just happy to be able to at least be able to be back on right now and doing this. And I'll do my best to continue to recover and get through my stuff. But right now, one of the things that's really helping me is this Jets community. So I'm going to do this as much as possible to help me get better and recover. So let's go to the chat, see some of our friends. Kelly Wilson, it's good to see you here, man. First one in, first one to chat. My good friend Duncan Lloyd is here. I can't have a great day yet because I have it's the morning here. Like we just woke up not too long ago. But I'm hoping it's going to be a great day too. The weather here in Sacramento is perfect. I'm hoping just to relax and have a good day and try to get some sun. And I appreciate that, Duncan. I'm working on it as best I can. And I'm definitely like slightly better than I was a few days ago. So it's like it's a day by day thing. So it's getting a little bit better each day, and enough that I could be on at least here with you guys. So that's a good thing. So who do I like? What was my motivation for this video? What's going on, Rich? I see you in the chat as well. I wanted to start because I see a lot of things going on Twitter about a few offensive tackles. Like you got Paris Johnson, right? Junior. You got Pete Skoronski, right? And I'll talk about each one and what the pros and cons are. Anton Harrison, obviously Broderick Jones, and now Darnell White is really creeping up on people. People kind of forgot about DeJuan Jones. That was another one. I think other teams fan base might talk more about DeJuan Jones. I think that we're a little gun shy as Jet fans because DeJuan Jones is such a big man. He's like 6'8" and weighs about 380 pounds. And I think after the Becton injury and what happened with Becton, I think there's a lot of concern there with DeJuan Jones. And he just might not be as fluid as the other guys anyway. But he's certainly somebody who might end up, he could easily end up being the best tackle for this year. Like DeJuan Jones might end up being this huge monster that just, pancakes people, opens up the running game. You don't know. And that's how I want to start that point. Is like whatever my opinion is, whatever my rankings are, whatever Dom C's rankings are, whatever Tigo's rankings are, whatever Buffalo's rankings are, whatever Green Bean's rankings are, however any of us feel about it, or Y2K, Nick, all my friends. I mean, like we agree on a lot of things. We have slight disagreements. I think that we all agree that those, I think we agree on the top 4 or 5 guys, and then I think we agree on our tier 2 guys. They're like these tier 2 guys. If for some reason we don't go for a tackle early, guys like Cody Mock, who could be used on the interior as well as tackle, yet to be defined in the NFL. But I want to get into the what I've learned about these players individually. Because I see a lot of people are throwing a lot of different things out there. What's up, Harry? Good to see Harry. Good to see you, man. I hope you're feeling better, continuing to get better every day, my friends. So I want to talk about first, number 1. I'm not going to go like reverse order. I'm going to say my favorite, to me, the safest pick, the most secure pick. If for some reason he slipped to us, I doubt he will. I don't think he's going to be there. But if Paris was there, he's your consensus guy. And I'm saying that as somebody who humbly will not pretend that I could know more than pretty much 90% of the experts out there. I mean, I could watch tape all I want. All those guys look really good on tape. They obviously, when you look them up, you're seeing their highlights. They all look great. But this guy is clearly the consensus number 1 guy, right? As far as all around. Lowest floor, Paris, right? That's the guy. He could slip because everybody has different boards, and there's other things about the other players on the board that GMs like to roll the dice on. Because I said he has the lowest floor, I didn't say he had the highest ceiling. See, so that's kind of where I get into my number 2 guy, and my number 2 guy is Broderick Jones. And admittedly, the downside, the negative to me on Broderick Jones is that he could have a lower floor than a lot of the other guys. It's possible because of the lack of film, right? I mean, different position. I don't want to compare it to the whole Zach Wilson quarterback thing. But remember, I was really high on Zach Wilson, and I didn't care that it was not a lot of tape and not against stiff competition. I don't think Broderick Jones it's apples to apples, but the argument could be made is Broderick Jones doesn't have as much experience at the position, so there's a lot more coaching that needs to take place for him. He's definitely not the most NFL ready of the different prospects that we're talking about, but I still have him at number 2 because, and this is how GMs might feel, and this is why he probably worked his way up the board, is that the ceiling is so high on him. Also, I'll mention it when I talk about the other guys. Broderick Jones can be potentially a great all-pro left tackle or right tackle, right? So there's some versatility there. He's not defined as one or the other, and we know that JD likes that versatility. With injuries and all this, he likes to be able to flip guys around. If any fan base learned that in the past year from last season, I think that Jets fans realize that versatility goes a long, long way and can help hold an offensive line together. So I'm putting Broderick Jones as my number 2 guy. My number 3, and this might be a little bit of a surprise to people, is Darnell White. The reason I'm going with Darnell White as my number 3, the biggest knock on Darnell White that I could think of, and this comes from my friends and from people, specifically Dom C, is that Darnell White is specifically a right tackle. Okay. So no, look, I don't want to not take somebody because they're a right tackle, because we all saw what happened when we took Becton, and that guy from Tampa, Wirfs or whatever, turned out to be pretty freaking good, right? And there's nothing wrong with slotting in or sticking in an all pro right tackle. His pass protection is really, really strong. I don't think it's as strong as Broderick Jones from the tape that we have on Broderick Jones, but it's really strong. His pass protection is really strong. He's good run blocker. He can get places. He can move. He can shift along the line during the play. He's got a lot of fluidity. Do you want to call it, or fluidness in his game? He's a really, really good tackle. I'd be really happy if we ended up with him. I don't know. I mean, look, nobody cares where you pick a guy if he turns out to be great, right? But it's hard for me psychologically to take Darnell White with the 13th pick unless JD reads the board and understands what the other GMs like. Because I'm just thinking that Darnell White's a guy you could get at 25. And if there was a way to trade back and get draft capital and get him later. Also, I think that in the mid-20s, there's going to be, if not him, there would be my number 4 guy, and that's Antoine Harrison. Okay, now a lot of people are going crazy because there's someone I didn't mention who I love also. By the way, I want to say I just love these guys. I love them all. I'll be happy with any of them. But Antoine Harrison, if Darnell White goes, not everybody needs a tackle. So some of these guys are going to slip because there's a lot of quality players in different positions of need for the teams that are going to be drafting. So Anton Harrison is not a bad consolation prize if Darnell White wasn't on the board, if we were to trade back and we get into the 20s, right? So there's that. Now, there's mention that we don't need 3 right tackles, and I agree that is a problem with Darnell White. It is a problem. But he could be the right tackle. Becton could be the left tackle. And battle it out with Dwayne Brown. I'm sure he'll win the battle. And Dwayne Brown and Max Mitchell could be our backups, right? If anything happens, it's not a bad alignment. But anyway, Antoine Harrison, very solid player to me. Some people have him ranked higher as the OT2. Some people think he's going to go in the top 15. So here's another player who is, I would say, NFL ready. Like, he's definitely a plug-and-play guy. Good pass protector, good run blocker, very smooth, solid, fundamentally very sound. Really strong player. Needs to maybe get a little bit stronger. A lot of them do. I mean, they're 21, 22, the majority of them. I mean, so anytime you get a rookie, you're going to say needs to get stronger. But understand they're going to go into an NFL locker room, an NFL weight room with NFL trainers, and, they're going to get there. Remember, they said Max Mitchell would take 2 years to get strong enough to play in the NFL. And Max Mitchell came in, we all saw what he did. He was solid. He was good. I mean, we don't have enough tape on him, and we don't know enough about him to say good enough that we don't need to draft a tackle, especially because his health is a question mark. But even if it wasn't, not that good, but good enough that for a rookie to play at that level, he was looking like he could be a very solid average to above average tackle in the NFL once he got experience and had, again, like everybody says, more time to grow and get stronger. So I don't want to sleep on Max Mitchell as a player. So a lot of people might be thinking, well, where is Pete Skoronski? Why don't I love Pete Skoronski? Why haven't I mentioned him? Well, first of all, I hate saying his last name because I think I say it wrong. But the reason he's my number 5, and please understand, if we take Pete at 13, I will not be upset. I will not be upset. I could live with any of these 5 tackles at number 13. If JD says that's the guy for us, I'm on board. I really am. I would like to see it unfold if we end up with one of those 5 guys that it came after a trade back. Now, you have to have a partner for a trade back. There might not be anybody willing to trade. But if I had my preference, it would come after a trade back, right? So we can get our 3rd round pick back and maybe get a 2nd round pick next year. And maybe that will replace the pick we have to give up next year to Green Bay. You know what I mean? Like, so I would love to get one of those top 5 guys and use the capital that we get to fill in the void of what we have to give for Rodgers. So if we have to give one of our seconds this year for Rodgers, we have the other second. We get a 3rd round pick by trading back. We fill that in from the Elijah Moore trade. Then all we lost was Elijah Moore, but we have our 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th pick, right? And then next year, if we get like a second for next year in this kind of trade back, that substitutes any second that we have to give Green Bay if we give them next year. Now, that's the assumption of mine, that we're going to end up giving Green Bay a 2nd round this year and a 2nd round next year. It might be a 1st round pick next year, which is really the value of a 2nd round. Hopefully, it'll be a very late pick, so it really will be close to us, just a real 2nd round pick. And if we had 2 2nd round picks and we had to give them our 26th or 27th pick next year, we could use the 2 1st rounders to trade up if there's someone we really love. Or, depending on how the draft is, we could just use our 2 2nd round picks. And the way JD drafts, we can have a perfectly good draft. But I really want to gain some draft capital to prepare ourselves for the Green Bay trade. Now, the trade might be done by then. And then we'll know exactly what we need to replace and get back the value of that trade. But how nice would that be if we can get one of our top offensive linemen, that one of those top 5 guys, fill that need, fill that pick that we all want, that most of us want, and at the same time pay for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, to me, that's just perfect, right? It's just bullseye. And what did it cost us? It cost us Elijah Moore. Well, let me tell you something. Aaron Rodgers and any 5 receivers in the NFL is better than Zach Wilson and the 5 best wide receivers, specifically Elijah Moore, right? So if it means getting Aaron Rodgers and we don't have Elijah Moore on the roster, no disrespect to Elijah Moore, that's my boy. But the reality is I don't care who the wide receivers are if you have Aaron Rodgers back there, right? And I don't care who your wide receivers are if you don't and you have no quarterback back there, because we see that doesn't work. Well, unless you're Garrett Wilson. So to me, it ends up being a really tremendous victory for us if we're able to trade back and get the pick. Anyway, let's get back to Pete. Why is Pete my number 5? The only reason that Pete is my number 5 is that statistically, and this is reality. I know people get mad when you talk about arm length, right? But the reality is that if you look at history, and they're able to do this, and you look at all the picks, if you're under 32-inch arm span, you're not a successful tackle in the NFL. I'm not saying it's impossible that he can't be a good tackle in the NFL. I'm not. But I'm saying that it's worrisome. It's worrisome that stat is such a real statistic, that if your arm span is a certain length, you are very unlikely, based on modern football history, to be successful in that position. Now, I have no doubt he could be an all-pro guard. I have no doubt he's an amazing football player, and I think he could even play center. So if we took him, let's say we took him, and then Max Mitchell was healthy, and Becton was healthy, and Dwayne Brown was healthy, right? You got Laken Tomlinson and AVT. Where do you put Pete if you drafted him? Well, there's our center. So if you miss on center, let's say in the 2nd round, we gamble. We say, oh, Kalijah Campbell's there, we got to take him. Or Mozzie Smith is there, we got to take him. Defensive tackle's a huge need. And then we go into the 3rd round if we made a trade, or we have to wait to the 4th round. And let's say everyone's guard, even Stromberg. Everybody's gone. We can't get a center. Well, that's the beauty of Pete Skoronski. Guess what? We can play him at center, and he'd probably be really good. So there's a player that's very special, because he could play any spot on the offensive line. And I know the arguments. I see Micro Fox out there, you're making that argument, but statistics don't lie. And I'm not saying, I in my heart feel that way. I'm like, who cares? He misses by a half of inch. How could that matter at tackle? Especially if he's got speed, right? But the reality is, statistically, they don't succeed. Hundreds of players, hundreds and hundreds of tackles have been drafted. And the ones that are under a 32-inch arm span are not successful. They're just not. And I know that he could be the exception, but that is scary. That's much more of a risk. And I hate it. I'm a Moneyball guy for baseball. Like, I don't care if the guy looks dorky or has a weird delivery or a weird swing. I say, look at the stats, look at the production. I agree with that. And I love Skoronski, and I will be thrilled if we pick him. And if they start him at tackle, I will root for him and hope that he's the anomaly to that statistic. Now, what I really love about him, though, is the versatility. Because Lincoln is probably not going to be here after next year. Right? Oh, yeah, I know you're not arguing with me, Micro. I'm just taking your points. I wasn't acting like you were arguing. I was just like talking with you. I mean, I think that the reason Pete would be a great pick is, or I'd be very happy with it, is because he fills other problems, right? I mean, he can play tackle if he has to. I'm not, because we don't know. He could end up being an all-pro tackle, right? He could be the anomaly. But the point is, if Dwayne Brown is healthy and Becton is healthy and Max Mitchell is healthy, we could utilize Skoronski. If Lincoln is playing horrible like he did last year, we could stick him in there. If we don't get a center, we could stick him in there. So right away, he brings value to our line. Right away, he can come in and be a contributor to help give us a great offensive line. The only reason I have him 5 is because I really want the most. I'm going by like a balance of ceiling versus the lowest floor at tackle. And I do think that as a tackle specifically, that Pete has the lowest floor. Like, he might be like a Justin Pugh. Like the Giants, when they took Justin Pugh, that was the knock. His arm length is not there, and it wasn't. They should have moved him to guard sooner. I think they eventually moved him to guard if they were smart. But again, I'm okay with taking him because I do believe he's I'm not going to compare anyone direct to apples, but I do think if you had to say which one of the 5 is the most like AVT, I mean, it would be Pete because he's the most versatile like AVT. That doesn't mean he could play tackle as well as AVT, but he does remind me the most of him. He is the AVT of this draft in the sense that he could be a great, an elite guard and a really good tackle. I don't know if AVT was going to be an all-pro tackle. I know that we were really happy with the way he played. He played extremely well at tackle when he came in and played tackle. I don't know if that was all-pro. Maybe some of you will help me in the chat. Let me know. Did you think it was all-pro tackle, like elite tackle, or did you think he just did a really good job? Like he was a very good tackle, but he's an elite guard. You see, the problem with Pete is, I think with this draft is we're hoping for a high ceiling. We want to get an elite tackle. I don't know 100% if we're going to be able to keep Becton after this year. Like, I don't know what they're going to do with the 5th-year option. Like, I don't know if he's staying or not. So if Becton ends up playing amazing, he might leave, right? We might not have the money to keep him. So it would be nice to have an elite piece in there. Max Mitchell's a beautiful thing because we got Max Mitchell, and we got so we have a guy who can, if somebody was to leave, at least gives us a functional player who's only going to get better. He might be much better than functional. But we really need a young stud tackle to know that we're going to have a really good tackle. That's what might make Darnell an issue, because if you're going to have one really great young tackle, you want to make sure that great young tackle can play left tackle, because that's the first one you fill. That's the biggest one of need. I have a feeling if Becton leaves, depending on Max Mitchell's developments, Dwayne Brown's going to retire. Even if we draft the guy now, it's going to be a need again for next year. We're going to have to take a tackle again, unless Max Mitchell develops enough to convince us that he could be a starting tackle. So we definitely have to take one this year, and we definitely need it to be a stud. And my fear with Pete is that if he doesn't end up a stud and he's more of a guard, that's great. He could be Lakin's replacement. It's not a wasted pick at all. But we're still going to need a tackle. So that's our dilemma. You just got to keep building the offensive line. That's what good teams do. Just keep building the offensive line and be really good at finding good specialty position players in the second and third rounds. And that's where I love Joe Douglas, because I think Joe Douglas can do that. Let's see what people are saying. Adam S. is saying, I love this idea. I think we should gamble. But I think we should wait to the last second. Because I don't know when the cutoff date is, but we need to see how healthy he is. If he's looking really good, if he's moving around and everything, that would be great. That'd be great. Randy, the answer to this question is I don't think he's going to be there at 42. No. But I will say this. That's why I said Mozzie Smith before. Like, if you look right, I said in second round, if there's a guy like Mozzie Smith, the reason I said Mozzie Smith is because I don't believe that Kancey will be there. I think he's a top 18 pick. Like, I think he might be, first round, not only first round, but top 20. But it could happen. I don't know why guys slip and why guys don't slip, Randy. I don't. Every year, though, there are guys who slip to crazy how they slip. I mean, Verone McKinley, the safety out of Oregon, slipped all the way out of the draft. And he's good. Like, I think Miami got him. So it's hard to explain, right? Creed Humphreys. How did Creed Humphreys slip so far? I would have been happy if the Jets never traded up for AVT and would have picked Creed Humphrey at that time. I'm not saying it hindsight. At that time, everybody would have been happy. At least, the panel and I, Green Bean, like, we were all saying it. Creed Humphreys was on our list as a very, very pickable guy with like the 23rd pick. We all would have been very happy with that pick. So I don't know why, PFN's rankings is so bad. The fact that they haven't fixed it and moved Kalijah Kancey up is mind-boggling to me, Randy. Like, I don't understand it. But if I'm doing a mock draft and he's there, it's really hard for me not to take him, right? Because he's there. And I know it's unrealistic. After every draft, I know no, Randy, I didn't answer this already, so it's a great question. Thank you. Don't apologize, please. I appreciate you being here and asking questions. I totally feel like it's possible he could slip, but it's very doubtful. It's extremely, extremely doubtful that Clancy could pick. Let's put it this way. It would not shock me. It would not shock me at all. I don't expect it, but it wouldn't shock me if we traded back and then didn't take one of those tackles and took Kalijah Kancey and waited for the second round, 42 or something, and took a tackle like Cody Mock or someone else, or hopes DeJuan Jones if he slips or something like that. Like, it wouldn't shock me in the least. That's how good I think Kalijah is, and that's how doubtful it is that I think he slips. Like, I just don't. So, no. I mean, I think it's a really good point. And I think that PFN, I think the rankings are really, really poor. Hey, Improv Man. Thanks. It's even a better show? Cravat Attack. Let me spell it out for you guys in case any of you have not subscribed to Cravat Attack yet. In the chat right now, go onto YouTube, look for Cravat Attack, and watch our reviews. We are reviewing different kinds of food, restaurants. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully everybody here is already subscribed. But make sure you go to Cravat Attack. The videos will speak for themselves. Everybody, so far the feedback has been great. There'll be a new review today that comes out. I've kind of lagged behind a little bit. It's hard. We were trying to release one every day, but I realized that wasn't going to work. So I'm trying to spread them out a little bit, but we're going to eventually try to get them out every day or as often as possible. So we got, I'm going to release a good one today. So my brother in New York, he's been reviewing pizza in New York. So there's one coming from a pizza place I've actually eaten in, not far from the apartment I lived in New York. And I'm going to release that today. So check it out. Anyway, I was talking about Kalijah Kancey. Yeah, I would grab him in the second round if he was there. But the answer is, honestly, Randy, I'm very realistic. I usually say after my drafts, if this happened in real life, I'd be rolling in joy. That's what I don't understand when people rate the drafts. They grade our drafts like a C or a B because you didn't take this guy. And it's so ridiculous. Because if we ended up with, let's say when we do our drafts and we trade back and get extra picks, if we ended up with Darnell White, Kalijah Cansey, John Michael Schmitz, and then with our other picks, get guys like Owen Popoe at linebacker or something like that. Like if we were to do that and land those kind of guys, it would be an epic draft. And people are still complaining. And the reason it would be epic and the reason why I don't believe it's going to happen is just because of the fact that the rankings on those mock drafts are baloney. If we know Kalijah Cansey's special, I think other GMs know it too. So I think the real GMs of the NFL teams know it. So somebody's going to grab them. So, Eric, it's good to see you, brother. It's good to see you lead the people. It's good to see Mr. Greens. It's good to see Kelly Wilson has been here the whole time. Thank you, Kelly. Randy, been asking questions. Microfox. It's been a little bit, Microfox. I'm glad to see you here. Adam is here. Thank you. I appreciate you being here, brother. Let's switch shift positions. So I talked about offensive line, and that's all well and good. Let's think about other positions where we might have need. I don't know, on defensive tackle. So for defensive tackle, there's only, except for Jalen Carter, which I know is not going to be there. Jalen Carter's not going to be there. There's no way I will believe that the Seattle Seahawks will allow Jalen Carter to get past them in the 5th pick. Not going to happen. So obviously, if Jalen Carter was there, you sprint to the podium. You worry about tackle later. You figure it out. It doesn't matter. A guy like Jalen Carter, it's another Q. There's no way you don't stick the two of them together, right? So you just have to take him. He's not going to, though. So here are the defensive tackles I like. Kalijah Cansey is my number 1 after Jalen Carter. Kalijah Cansey is, and very well could be, I'll say this, it is very possible that Kalijah Cansey could end up being the better, more successful defensive tackle than Jalen Carter. Because remember, not every prospect makes it, right? We've seen defensive tackles go in the top 6, 7 picks in the NFL draft and completely bust or just be average players. We've seen it. We've done it. We've picked defensive tackles disappointing. And there have been defensive tackles that have been picked in later rounds that have been extremely successful. So prospecting is different than reality. Reality, we don't know until you jump forward 10 years into the future, right? So Kalijah Cansey, I will argue, of all the defensive tackles in the draft, has the best chance if somebody was going to be better than Jalen Carter, it's Kalijah Cansey. And it's because from the inside, this guy has the potential to get over 10 sacks a year. After him, Mazi Smith, because Mazi is big, strong, well-rounded, could help stop the run, really good stuffer, be a great guy, good pursuit of the quarterback, causes havoc, would be great. Like Mazi Smith would be fine. And then the less talked about guy who's talked about more, thanks to my friend Dom C, who I believe it started the whole thing, and now all of a sudden he's being mentioned a lot more, is Keanu Benton. Keanu Benton is also a guy who can get to the quarterback very quick, very fast, shed blocks, fill in gaps, fill in holes, would be a really great compliment to Q Williams. And that's Keanu Benton. And then there are some other guys, there's guys like Zach Pickens and, me and Green Bean pick one in at pick 207, although we don't think he'll really slip that far. I'm forgetting his name right now. There's some other guys, but I think that defensive tackle is very thin as far as if you want the lower floor, higher ceiling guys. I only really love those 4 guys, like Jalen Carter, Kalijah Cansey, Keanu Benton, Mazi Smith, those 4 names. I'm hoping that we can get one of those guys in the second round. I really would like it to be one of those 4. Obviously, some other defensive tackle, maybe even 2 or 3, maybe more, some guys that come after that I'm not naming, that I don't even know, are going to end up being very good, because that's what happens in the NFL. But as far as prospects and as far as feeling confident that we got a very solid, real person, those are the 4 defensive tackles I really like. I think it's a strong position of need too. I think that do not underestimate the fact that defensive tackle is definitely a position of need for us. Some might argue as much as offensive tackle. So I mean, to me, the three very big ones are offensive tackle, center, and defensive tackle. Those are the big three. Then I got like linebacker, safety, and wide receiver after that. And the wide receiver after that is, even if we keep Corey Davis or get D-Hop, even with that scenario, we need a wide receiver for the future because we have a bunch of guys with contracts ending then, right? Because if we get D-Hop, will it be long-term? Corey Davis would, if we kept him, as only one more year. So I kind of feel like we might need a guy to start developing at least. Maybe not an early round plug-and-play wide receiver, but like developmental wide receiver like Pukanuka from BYU or what's his name, Mingus. There's a guy, Mingus, who's like beastly. He looks really good. There's a few guys in that late round that they don't have the big college numbers, but they have like a lot of size and a lot of speed, great RAS numbers, guys who could potentially be developed into really good wide receivers. So I'm looking at that as a need. Linebacker, if we don't re-sign Quan, I love Jamie Sherwood. I love him, but I'm just worried about Jamie Sherwood as far as can he play on the outside, because they didn't do it last year when they had the opportunity. But if they do put Jamie Sherwood out there, I'm pretty happy with that. I like him a lot. Anyway, I got some super chats. Let me get to that. I appreciate it so much, Randy. Thank you so much for the super chat. You're awesome. So if we don't end up making a trade before the draft for Rodgers, I do think the Jets could use one of the 2 second-round picks to move up for Kansas. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's definitely something been on my mind too. If we have 42 and 43, we could trade 43 back to the third round or something with somebody, like swap, trade back to the third round, replace that third round pick. And in return, because we're jumping back an entire round, move up to like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 spots to the end of the first round, beginning of the second round if Kancey's there, and grab them there. Right? I don't have a point value chart, so I don't know exactly, but you got to be able to find a trade partner to do that. And a lot of times you do, because a lot of times in the back rounds, there are teams that are looking at guys that have enough parity with their second favorite at that position that they believe will be there at 42 or 43. So you end up finding a trade partner. Like, for example, if Kansas City, for example, if they loved Addison at wide receiver, they might equally love Simone, that Rice, that kid, something Rice, Simonian Rice or whatever, or Tillman. They might have a wide receiver that's very close that they say, well, we could just get him, but we also get to move our third round to the second round, right? We get to give away our third round to get them, get that extra pick. So it's possible. It's good theory. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. See another one. How am I? I'm doing better, William. Not 100%. I got some work to do, but I'm good enough to be on right now talking to you, right? And it's actually helping. It's taking my mind off a lot of things. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the super chat, my friends. And I'm really happy to see you here. Let's see. I think linebackers... Let me get that up. Why am I not just putting it up? Sorry, my eyesight is awful. I need new reading glasses. I think linebackers are key to improving the defense more. If they can get faster at linebacker, I really believe the Jets can have the best defense in the NFL. Yeah, look, I don't argue that. I just think that the way this scheme is predicated, they care about the defensive line more than anything, and they don't value linebackers. I'm not going to say they don't value linebackers. That's nonsense. If you look at San Francisco, it's not like the 49ers didn't have linebackers, right? They have linebackers. And I think Jamie Sherwood is the guy they're developing to be that, to be that guy, that Werner guy. So I don't disagree. To me, linebackers look, there's many drafts where I try to trade back to get extra draft capital, where I grab Owen Popoi because he would be perfect in our system. He's super fast. But there's other guys who are going to drop that are super fast, great, quick linebackers. And one of them that is going to be available in the fourth round, most likely, is a guy named Dorian Williams. And I think that would be an incredible value for us. If we were to get Dorian Williams in the 4th round, we'd get ourselves a super fast linebacker who can cover. Like he can cover guys, like whether it's tight ends or slot receivers, super fast kid. Maybe one of the best coverage linebackers in the draft, according to Dom C. I looked at some tape myself. It looks pretty awesome. He looks like a free safety almost in his ability to cover. So that would be an exciting pick. You like the BYU receiver, but we have trouble with Pukanuka because he's BYU, right? Zach would be the future after Rodgers. BYU could be the key to Zach's future, a receiver or he has faith in. Yeah, but remember, Pukanuka really didn't wake up and become one of the primary guys until after Zach was gone. His big years were the last 2 seasons. There was no Zach, but he knows him. I'm sure that, obviously, but I don't know how familiar he is with him in real games. Chiefs Live is here. What's going on, Chiefs Live? It's good to see you, brother. Congratulations again on your Super Bowl. I'll say it every time I see you. Oh, Randy, take care, brother. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the super chat. We'll see you next time, okay, man? The biggest sleeper in the draft is Rashawn Johnson. No one is ever mentioning this running back. He will be a star. Back up in Texas behind Bijan. Unreal traits. That happens a lot. You get these guys in college that nobody knows because they're backing up a superstar, and the college is really good at recruiting great, talented, players at a certain position. I wouldn't mind if the Jets use a very late round pick on a running back. I wouldn't mind. Whatever. We definitely cannot afford to use an earlier pick. Like our top, our top 4 picks, we have much bigger positions of need. But if they see someone they really like, I got no problem with it. Whatever. You never know. Anytime you can improve your team, if he's an upgrade over one of the other running backs on the squad, okay. We want the trade 4th. We get the salary cap hit. We want the what? The Faria trade? I don't know what you're saying. A 4th, and we get the salary cap hit. I don't know who you're talking about. Daniel Youngs, I think the teams caught on to be the Jets had problems covering the intermediate area on the field. Yeah, wouldn't that be good? That's why we need more coverage guys in the middle, right? Like the linebackers that can cover. That'd be great. Remember, we still had a great defense, so you can't be perfect. There's always going to be some area, but just because you had a great defense doesn't mean you don't constantly try to improve it. Maybe the guy doesn't want to play with Zach. That's actually a good point. Oh, you were referring back to the Favre trade. Okay. Well, Brett Favre wasn't a big cap hit, was he? I didn't think about back then. I'll be honest with you. I didn't start worrying about salary cap until in my Jets fandom. I didn't think of salary cap as a thing I even thought about until probably 2015 or so. I don't, it's very recent in my Jet fandom over my 40 years of being a Jet fan that I even knew what or cared about what salary cap was. I just wanted to have good players. I think the first time I worried about salary cap or worried about bad big contracts was Le'Veon Bell. One of my best friends is a Steeler fan, and he just looked at me when we made that deal and said, bad move. Why would you pay big money for a running back if you don't have the surrounding players around him, the offensive line? It's so stupid. That's how bad some GMs are. Think about that. How could we as a fan base understand so well, what is the point of a running back if you don't have an offensive line or even a great quarterback? What is the point? That running back is just going to take a beating. They're not going to be great. There's outliers. Jim Brown, Walter Payton, Adrian Peterson. There's outliers. Even Breece Hall with a below offensive line is still a great running back. But that's not how you build a team. You don't build a team that way. So it's absolutely insane to me that there are GMs that will sign like a big name running back, like we paid Le'Veon Bell, without having the team around them. That's why running back is a luxury pick when you have the team. You got to have the team. Now, we took Breece Hall because we didn't know Beckham was going to get hurt again. We didn't know the entire offensive line was going to be decimated. And it was true because if you look at the first 8 games of the season, Breece Hall was a great pick. But, you know, the 2016-17 Jets that signed Le'Veon Bell, that was just pathetic. Pathetic. Microfox says Joe Douglas is great at finding value in the later rounds. I agree 100%. I mean, last year, Max Mitchell, Michael Clemens, like, wow, right? Jamie Sherwood, Michael Carter II. Michael Carter, the running back in the 4th round. Don't forget he had a good rookie year. I know he had an off year last year, but his off year could have something to do with the fact that our offensive line was decimated, which means he's not Breece Hall. He's not elite. He's not the kind of guy that's going to go crazy for you, even if you don't have an offensive line. He's one of those kind of good running backs that are dependent on an offensive line. So if the offensive line is good, Michael Carter's going to be good for you. If the offensive line is terrible, Michael Carter's not going to do much for you. You know, and most running backs fall into, there's very few that rise above that are so good that they don't need an offensive line. You know, and Barry Sanders is one of them. I see Micro said Barry Sanders. He's one of those outliers. He's one of those special running backs. Breece Hall is doing it, right? Even with the injuries, we were starting to get beat up. I mean, AVT was still standing, but we had already lost. You know, AVT was already playing tackle. We were already an infirmary, but Breece Hall was still doing it. That's what made me believe that Breece Hall is special, that he's going to enter that elite list of name running backs one day. So at least that's my opinion. Mess, it's good to see you, brother. It's good to see you. It's good to see Red John. What's going on? Let's trade back a little into the 20s. Look, I'd love that. I would love it. I would absolutely love a trade back. Absolutely. Especially like I was saying before, if we get one of those top 5 guys. Tin Star, good to see you, brother. Thanks. Good to see you. Yeah. I'm doing a little bit better. Even better now that I'm talking about the Jets again. I haven't really been on here for a while, if you guys noticed. So I want to thank everybody who watched Adam and Nick take over the show on Wednesday night and kept the show going because I was unable to do that. So I really appreciate Nick and Adam, Watu-K99, for doing it. And I appreciate everybody here that supported them and watched them. It was great of them to be able to do that for me and give me that night off. So I appreciate that. Here's another friend of mine, Sean McAteer. What's up, brother? Always bringing the good content. Well, sorry. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Yeah. You know, I got to say, it really helps. Like all of you guys, you know, and doing this is a big part of helping me feel better. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the support and everything. So it's much appreciated. So they did get well. I know that they did. Look, there's a reason why you always see them on my channel. There's a reason that Watu-K is my co-host. I loved his analysis and liked him as a person from when I started the channel. I think I only did like 3 or 4 episodes of the Wacky Wednesday show. And then I had Adam on as a guest. I keep saying Adam, Watu-K99 as a guest. And after the show, I asked him, I said, you just want to be a co-host and co-host the show with me? And he said yes, and we've been together ever since. And then Nick and I met on whatchamacallit. What's the name of that channel? It's CJ's channel. You know, CJ and Jimmy and what was their name? They had that Friday drunk show where they were drinking everything. I'm forgetting the name already. I can't believe it. I'm like brain fog. Anyway, those guys, that's where I met Nick. We were both guests and we hit it off right away. And Nick is great. Everybody, you know, Nick is great at talking Jets. So I came onto my channel and then he started coming on all the time. And me and Nick have become very, very good friends in real life. But me and Nick are very close. So yeah, so I'm not surprised. I'm very proud of them, how they did, but I never doubted it. I knew that they would be great. And they were. What do you think about this trade scenario? My Jets 2022 first round pick for Aaron Rodgers and a 24 first round pick. I don't love it. I don't love it, but I mean, if that's what it is, I'll that's what it is. You know what I mean? Micro, like I'll take it. I'll be surprised. I'll be surprised if he goes first round in 2024, maybe second round, like first round next year and second round. Because personally, I think next year's first is enough on its own, and that's all it should be. Or, like if we give them a second round pick this year, then next year a fourth round. Like that's what honestly, that's how I feel, because there's nobody else that wants Aaron Rodgers. We're taking over a crazy, crappy contract. He might retire after a year. I don't think we should have to give that 24 first round pick. But if he did, I would take it. I would be like, it would be like a little punch in the stomach. Oof. And then, but I'd be like, hey, we got all our picks this year, and this is the year we're going for it all, right? Like we have all our picks, and we could put the best team around them and go for the Super Bowl. But I think it would be us giving away too much. Personally, I think if we gave our 2023 first round pick, I think the any other pick aside from that should be not a first round pick. Maybe something, but not a first round in 24. Thanks for the super chat, Tony Alexio. I love you, man. Get better, Chaos. I enjoy your channel. Oh, thank you. Aros will hack it. Give Strevler practice reps. Any updates on our new boy? Haha. Well, he's still on our roster, right? Strevler is still a Jet. He's certainly going to get reps. We'll see him. We'll see him in preseason again, I'm sure, unless somebody takes him or snatches him from us somehow, or we don't. There's no reason why he's not going to be in camp, and we should see him in the preseason. I don't know what his chances are. I think he's going to be inactive most likely because we signed that kid Boyle from Green Bay. I think my guess is that Zach is going to be quarterback 2. That guy Boyle or whatever will be quarterback 3, and that Strevler will be QB4. But he might get snatched up if we keep him on the practice squad too long after what he did last year. He might have done enough to catch somebody's eye. So we'll see. We'll see. But thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Yeah. Well, yeah, no one's giving. Yeah, I think everybody. I think every Jet fan agrees that we're not giving up 13. The only way we're giving up 13 is if we get 15. A swap is definitely a possibility. Yeah, Nick was a trip on that opening day, wasn't he, Harry? He's a funny guy, fun guy. Oh my God, are we coming on an hour already? My wife's gonna kill me. I gotta take an approach. Or I gotta get her food or something. You think Strev will be gone to get rid of? Okay, so you're not a big Strev fan. I don't know. I kind of like what he brings, like this different thing. He kind of created a nice spark for us last year. The one thing people miss, though, it's true, is that he still couldn't complete that pass. So like that one pass that would have been a touchdown that the tight end had to come back for. It's good to see you again too, Twisted. I felt like I had some energy that I can come on and do this, show everybody that I'm alive. The channel's not dead. I'll try to make videos again, post some videos and stuff. Channel is not dead. I am going to recover fully. I'll be back 100%. I promise. This is not forever. It's a great time to be a Jets fan. I agree, Eric. It really is. I mean, sometimes we take it for granted. We don't say it enough. What a great time it is to be a Jets fan. It really is. I wanted to weigh in on one thing before I go, and that's the trade talks, right? Because every time, we got these 2 defensive players for Arizona that have requested trades. Of course, there's 3 guys in Arizona now total. And everybody wants all 3 of them, but there's no way we could pay all 3 of them. So what's that guy named? Bubba, Buka, Boca, Jones or something, whatever. Booba. I don't know. You got this guy asking for a safety. He's a great safety. He's an awesome player, one of the best in the league, asking for a trade from Arizona. You got D-Hop, asking for a trade from Arizona. And everybody's making their arguments of why we should get them, but we have to remember we can't get both of them. We simply can't. There's no way. I mean, you can't manipulate the cap that much. I've looked at it in every way. There's just no way, right? But we were going to sign Beckham, so obviously we have some money. So there's a chance that we can get we can get somebody, but I think you can't get both. So I think if you're going to go for one, you got to go for D-Hop, right? I mean, and Harry's saying that Budda Baker is a box safety. And that's not our biggest position of need. We need a free safety. Now, Clark is a free safety as much as he is a box safety. It's just that he's arguably better in the box, but understand that Clark might not be a pure free safety, but Clark is an everything safety because they played him at almost every freaking position. They played him as a linebacker. They played him as a slot corner to cover the slot. So he played the free safety. Half his snaps were free safety or like in that capacity. They played him at edge a couple of times. They put him on the defensive line. The guy is very versatile, but he's not a pure free safety. So if they don't make a move for a free safety, that tells me that they're going to make Clark a free safety or Whitehead a free safety, or they're going to just rotate. Be like and that's what Frankie from Flatbush actually told me that when he made a surprise appearance, not live, but in the chat. He actually gave me a good idea that he goes, Jeremy, stop thinking position for player and start thinking rotation for situation. So Tony Adams might factor in as the free safety in a lot of situations, and it might be, think of it as a situational kind of thing where you have Whitehead, Clark, and Adams as your main three safeties, but they're coming in and rotating and playing what makes sense for the situation. So that's what we might be looking at safety. Now, Ashton Davis, I don't know if they're just content with him being a safety that's a backup safety for that barely plays and comes in only certain times and does special teams. So you might see in the draft, we try to get a pure free safety that we develop because we're not going to go and take one in the first couple of rounds, but maybe we get like a guy like Jamie Robinson. Maybe he is on JD's board. Maybe he is a guy that we want, but he's a guy that you might not see play so much the first year. He might be a guy that they develop. I've heard that. I've heard both, though. I've heard that we can't afford his $19 million contract, and then I've heard that we can. We did do our due diligence and look into him, Joe. I think the one thing that you have to consider is that D-Hop did say something. I think he was quoted as saying that he could rework the contract, that he was flexible to restructure. So there might be a way that we could restructure D-Hop in. I'm not predicting it. But there seems to be enough talk and chatter that the Jets have shown interest and that they're doing their due diligence. So there's some way that it could happen. Am I dying for it to happen? No. I mean, Corey Davis will cost $10.5 million. And I know he can't stay healthy and he struggles to stay healthy, but his role is reduced. You got Garrett Wilson, you got Lazard, you got this new guy, Hardman or whatever from Kansas City. I mean, you put Corey Davis in a more limited role, and I think we're okay. I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm okay with it. If we cut Corey Davis, we need to replace him, though. That I'll say. Now, I have not given up on Mims, but I know they're not relying on Mims, and I'm not going to argue that we can rely on Mims. We can't rely on Mims, but I secretly think that Mims could be a contributor on this team and be decent because now we have a guy who appreciates bigger receivers that can go up and grab a ball. And I could totally see with Mims' speed and size, Aaron Rodgers would totally freaking, tear it up with him. You have Mims running out there. You don't see Aaron Rodgers not throwing it up to Mims the way Mims could get up there and get the ball. I think he could be, I think he could be a weapon. But I know I stand on a hill with very few people on the hill with me on that. What's going on, John? It's good to see you. Yeah, I would agree that Ben Jones I would love to get Ben Jones didn't start before the draft. I don't want a bidding war with some other team who missed out on center in the draft or something. I would love to get Ben Jones because then it takes the pressure off of us. It doesn't mean we don't take a center in the draft, but it takes the pressure off. It also means if you get a guy like Pete Skoronski just to be a versatile guy, that's your backup center, and that's your backup guard, and that's your backup tackle. And I'm sure somewhere very early in the season, there'll be a need, and he'll end up on that field playing. So it would be nice to sign a center and not have as much pressure to have to take one in the draft, like with a gun to our head, because you never know who's going to slip to the 40s, right? And then to have to not take a best player available because we can't risk losing our center, that would stink. That would absolutely be crap. Anyway, guys, hey, man, I'm sorry. I know we're just getting going, but I got to go start my day. It's early here. It's like 11:20. So I wish everybody the best. Thanks for being here. I'll be back as much as I can. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, go to the Buffalo Jet Fans channel. We are doing a full first for every team, and it's going to be the whole lot of us. Nick Shine, Dom C, me, Watu-K99, Talking Jets with Tigo, Buffalo Jet Fan. We're all going to be there. If I forgot somebody, I'm so sorry, because if I forgot someone, I'm forgetting one of my friends. But we're all going to be there. Make sure that you watch tomorrow night. It's not my channel. It's going to be on Buffalo Jets Fan channel. Sunday night, 8 p.m. You're going to get to see all of us together doing a full first-round draft. I hope to see you then. Really love you guys. You're really helping me through a tough time, man. I can't even tell you. It's hard to talk about, but it's been rough, but it's really, you guys have made it a lot better for me. So thank you so much. And I will leave you with, what am I going to leave you with? I'll leave you with some old school stuff. Here you go.
I would regret it if people look back at the first episode and you weren't on it.
Yeah, well, I like that. It's called forward thinking.
We have one of the worst beats in the world. We do. Our beat is horrible.
Connor could shove that article up his ass.
And then I went to that game, and I was like, this is the greatest team I've ever seen in my life. I'm a Jet fan. This is going to be the greatest run ever. Yeah.
No, because if they take Aquanu, I'm not complaining.
Joe Douglas is the king of keeping shit close to the vest.
A 2, a 4, and a 6 for Darnold?
Did the Jets really ruin Sam Darnold, or did Sam Darnold just suck all along and we were just trying to talk ourselves into it?
And Hamilton is a player who can potentially make a very big impact.
And suddenly here we are today, you can't get rid of him.
Right. It's like a plague.
Joe Douglas was hired because he's not those general managers.
Okay, Luscious.
Somebody is going to fall just like Elijah Moore did, just like Michael Carter did.
You know, if you had one sentence to say to Joe Douglas, what would you say? So you would say, you had me at hello, and then give him a big old wet one right on the smack.